When is it too early to make a move for new signings? I'm going to cover every new signing that's been added post the Game Week 3 deadline today and whether they are good picks for Game Week 4 and beyond, or when we should be picking them, and my thoughts on them as a player, how it's going to affect their teams, etc., etc. I cover the goalkeepers, the midfielders, the defenders, and the forwards. And look, some of them I think you can jump on straight away. Others I think it's definitely a wait and see to see how they impact with their teams. And it depends again whether you're on wildcard or free hit this week. So hopefully you find this video enjoyable. If you do, please smash a like on it. Leave us a comment with any new signings that you are interested in bringing into your team straight away. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. And with that being said, let's get into it. So straight away, we're just jumping straight into this. This is going to be a fairly quick video. I'm going to cover hopefully all the relevant players really quickly. Now, there's been 3 key goalkeeper signings post the Game Week 3 or around that deadline area. And 2 of them, I think, are going to be starting number 1s very shortly. Now, they might actually all potentially, they could all start this weekend. And we're going to talk into the prospects of them. Now, Donnarumma has been bought in from PSG by Manchester City, and I can't see any world where probably, arguably, the best goalkeeper in the world doesn't go straight into that game at home to Manchester United. Now, is it a good buy this week with Man United coming to town? I don't think it is. Obviously, they've got Arsenal in Game Week 5, so unless you're on a wild card, I wouldn't really be considering a goalkeeper transfer, definitely not Donnarumma, for the next couple of weeks. Now, if you're not wildcarding until like Game Week 6, 7 post then, Donnarumma becomes a really good option because you'd expect him to be nailed. 5.5 million it's the expensive end of goalkeepers, but you do expect him to do a good job for Manchester City. And look, he's going to, unfortunately for James Trafford, if you're one of those people that owns him, you probably need to abort and get out of that straight away. Now, onto the Lemon or Le Mans that signed for my club, Manchester United. Now, this is an interesting one because obviously Onana's leaving on loan to Turkey, so the number 1 spot really is up for grabs. Bindiers, obviously, Flappy Bird, has started the first 3 games of the season in the Premier League, and Amran has come out and backed him. But do they just rip the Band-Aid off and throw Le Mans in as hopefully a good, juicy lemon against Man City straight off the bat, or do they wait? Then you're just waiting for Flappy Bird to make a mistake, and then obviously he's going to be in. That doesn't feel good either. I actually think that Man United and Amran might just chuck him in straight away. That's what I would do if I was the manager, because let's be honest, Flappy Bird isn't cut it for the Premier League for me in general. So I wouldn't be surprised if Le Mans started. However, Manchester United defence haven't kept a clean sheet yet, and let's be honest, I don't expect them to keep a clean sheet against Man City away and Chelsea at home after we saw them concede twice with Burnley going to Old Trafford. So again, I don't know if I'd be making a move there in the goalkeeping department to bring him in. Then we got John. Now, John's an interesting one. Now, obviously, a lot of players were signed from Botafogo by Edu. Obviously, they've sacked the manager, and we're going to talk a bit more about that in my transfer tips tomorrow, where I delve a bit more into what potentially might happen with all these Forest assets that are pretty popular. Sells could be in the firing line here. Now, I know Victor John, 4 million goalkeeper. I mean, there is a world where he becomes the number 1 goalkeeper at Forest. I can actually see it happening. I don't think it's going to happen for the next couple of weeks, touch wood, because I've still got Sells in my own team and I do not want to be praying to Bravka and making a goalkeeper transfer. That could actually force me into an early wild card, but it's something to be aware of, that it is something that potentially could happen. Probably not this week though, let's be honest. So moving on to the defensive new signings, and look, I picked the top 5 that I think are going to be the most fantasy relevant. And look, there are others that I considered here. Could be Kubayano, who's gone to Forest, Camvo, Milo Savanic, Jimenez. Some of them have gone to Bournemouth, and then Savona, who's also gone to Forest. But I think these 5 are probably going to be the most realistic ones that we're going to be having to think about in our FPL teams. And look, I wouldn't be going for any of these blokes at all at the moment. But we'll start with Igor. He obviously forced the Gahey collapse to Liverpool, which ironically scuppered a lot of people's transfer plans because Gahey was one of the most bought-in players, particularly after he scored that goal. People think he was going to Liverpool, but in the end, he's ended up staying at Palace. Now, Igor obviously turned them down to go to West Ham, so that makes you think that he's going to be playing, so potentially he could be relevant. Now, I don't really know too much about him. He was at Brighton, but Brighton didn't seem to be playing him, so surely he's gone to West Ham to play football, because otherwise why has he gone there? 4.5 million. Again, West Ham's defence has looked a little bit shaky, so maybe he's just going to go in there and start playing. Now, if he does, then we have to see if he's going to be contributing to the DC points, whether West Ham's defence improves. There's just too many unknowns there really to sit there and say he's any good. Then we've got Hincapi. I don't know if I've said his name right. Some of these names I've just got no clue on. Hincapi. 5.5 mil. He's really been brought up as a backup for the centre-back position. I don't see him getting many minutes. Mascara's obviously, I think I've said that name correctly. He obviously played, and Saliba's out for 3 to 4 weeks. So if they get another injury in the centre-back position, potentially he comes in and plays. But they've obviously still got Ben White, they've got Timber, they've got Calafiori, who can all play that position. I don't realistically think he's an option, which is why I'm surprised being priced at 5.5 mil when he's definitely not going to be first choice. You wouldn't have thought early doors. Then we got Victor Lindelof, and honestly, he should come in as a 4 million defender because he is rubbish. But Villa signed him for a reason. Does that mean they're actually going to play him? The Iceman from Sweden, who literally got left at Man United I think he lasted there for 7 years, and they just let him go on a free. Again, I don't see him improving Villa's defence, so again, I'm not sure why they made that signing, so do not be going there. Zinchenko's an interesting one. Now, with Poch coming in and potentially bringing in his Ange ball, Zinchenko might actually start getting in the team, because realistically, let's be honest, he's much better going forward than he is defensively. 4.9 mil. Again, if the change of play does happen at Forest, there is a world where Williams drops out and Zinchenko plays in there instead, or Ange just deploys him in the midfield somewhere, not sure how, and he starts getting assists and whatever there. We know he's attacking, but again, he's another one that we need to see and wait on before we go there. And then obviously we've got Krejci for Wolves. Again, I've probably butchered his name as well. Wolves have looked poor. So defensively speaking, you'd have to think that potentially he's half a chance to come in pretty quickly to try and help Wolves solidify their defensive numbers and the goals they're conceding. So potentially he is an option. But again, I don't think of all the defenders and the goalkeepers, I'm not really interested in any of them straight out the bat. It's the midfielders and forwards where it becomes a lot more interesting. So on to the midfielders, and this is where I can see a lot of players getting played, getting good points, being actual realistic options. So other options that you do need to consider here. Sancho obviously joined Villa, and you'd expect him probably to get some game time there. Douglas Luiz, Bonawate, I'm not sure why Chelsea signed him, but they did. Lewis, Trudia, Chuck Wazzy, who's gone to Fulham as well, ironically plays on the right where Harry Wilson plays, so potentially that affects Harry Wilson's minutes moving forward. Traore, he's back in the league as well. We all know people love a Traore in their teams. And then we've got Nelson, who went to Brentford from Arsenal as well on deadline day. I don't know whether he's going to, realistically, I can't see where he plays in that Brentford team ahead of the likes of Sade, Dango, Thiago, etc. But potentially he does get minutes there. It's one that you do need to probably monitor. But let's talk about my favourite option. Xavi Simons for Tottenham, Spurs. If he gets deployed centrally where you would expect him to, that is his best position. He did have ridiculous XG numbers in the Bundesliga and is probably the pick of these 5 players in terms of what we can expect in terms of FPL output. He's priced at that 7 million bracket though, which does mean that he's priced as the same as what Semenyo started the season at. And realistically, I think he walks straight into that Spurs team. Now, whether he starts producing the goods straight away, that is another question entirely. I actually think that if I was buying a Spurs midfielder this week and I was looking at Kudus, Johnson and Xavi, I'd go Xavi over the other two. I just think that he's probably going to have more goal threat. I think his minutes are going to be a lot more secure. They pay big money for him. I can't see a world where he doesn't deliver for Spurs. Then we got Garnacho. Now, Garnacho could be anything. Look, he's joined from Man United. But again, he's behind a bunch of other players at Chelsea. Does he walk straight into that team? I don't think so. But I think at some point, he will get good minutes and he'll get good returns. Probably when he's gone down to 6.3 million, let's be honest. But again, if they get any more injuries to that forward line positioning, there's every chance to think that Pedro Neto could become a false 9 with João Pedro behind if Palmer's still out. And then all of a sudden that opens up the left-hand spot for Garnacho to play in. So potentially there is a world where he does become relevant quite quickly. It's another one of those ones where we do have to wait and see. Then we got Harvey Elliott, who's signed obviously to Villa for Villa from Liverpool on deadline day at 5.4 million. He's dirt cheap. Now, if he plays in any of those 4 positions and starts straight away, he could be an absolute goldmine for points at a bargain basement price. 5.4 mil has me very interested indeed. If it wasn't for the fact that Villa had started so poorly, I'd actually be tempted to bring him in straight off the bat, but even to like for an Ismaila Sarr or a Cunha to free up some more money to spend on the defence moving forward. But again, he's another really good option. Definitely one that I'm going to be keeping an eye on, specifically if he starts this weekend and then he might be in the D-Unit's team next week. Who knows? Then we got Bakwa. Again, another forward player here for Forest, and they spent decent money on him as well. Again, with Ange coming in, potentially that means that he might start coming into the team as well. It is another one of those ones to monitor. Another exciting attacker potentially along with Ndoye, who obviously was signed in the summer as well. It's just going to be interesting to see how Ange puts that Forest team together with all these teams. They can actually literally field 2 teams now, Forest, which is quite concerning for minutes and reliability moving forward. But it's good for them potentially from an attacking sense with Ange coming in. I'm not sure. And then we got Kevin. Now, Kevin could be anything. He looks like an absolute baller from the clips I've seen on YouTube. And look, Fulham needed some signings. Whether they've got a good one here or not, we will have to wait and see, but there's every chance at 6 mil, if he turns out to be an absolute baller, he could tear it up at Fulham and win a place in that team pretty quickly. And then, who knows, like 6 mil is dirt cheap. Again, I wouldn't be jumping at him straight away, but he could be a really good move moving forward. Yeah, the midfielders is where I am quite tempted. And then the forwards are something entirely else. So these are the 4 main ones you need to look at and consider. But other ones that did sign were Roll, who's obviously gone to Everton, Akradore, who's gone to Wolves, Uche, who's gone to Palace, and Brobby, who Eric Ten Hag, the Eggheads, tried to sign for Man United, has gone to Sunderland. And I mean, he's probably replaced Mark Gui there. But I mean, Eric Ten Hag loved him. There's another alternate universe where Robbie's the leading striker for Man United and we're sitting here all shaking our heads. But he could be really good. We'll have to wait and see. 5.5. But realistically, it's about these 4 blokes that are here at the moment. So, Kolo Muani, I think I said his name right for once. He's a really interesting prospect. Now, you would expect him to be the main man. He's probably better than the Pigeon, even though the Pigeon's in form. So he probably doesn't start against West Ham because the Pigeon's been good. But the Pigeon, obviously, he's quite injury prone. Dominic Solanke is very injury prone. So we expect him probably to become the starting striker at some point. He could potentially even be on penalties. We'll have to keep an eye out for that one. But he is a really interesting prospect with Tottenham's nice run of fixtures coming up as well. As long as they don't all completely kaput themselves during the Champions League football as it starts up after game week 4. He could become a very viable option at a nice price point. He costs the same amount of money as Evan Ilson. Like, that's dirt cheap. Much cheaper than those 7.5 guys by 0.5. But he could be really good. Again, probably not one you want to jump on straight away. Then we're going to talk about Walter Maid and Wissa together. Now, Walter Maid hasn't gone away for the international break. He's just been training at Newcastle. Does that give him a leg up for the game at home with Wolves? I'm not sure. In comparison, Wissa has gone away, played, looked good, scored a goal. He might have even scored 2. I'm not 100% sure. I did read, but I can't remember. I'm sure he scored, though. He's obviously got the match fitness. Does he get the start instead against Wolves? Obviously, they gave him the number 9 shirt as well. I just think if I was on a free hit this week, I'd actually probably pick Wissa in my free hit team. I think potentially he's going to start. I think he could be great against that Wolves team who do look really poor defensively. There is a world as well where both of them start together. Like Walter Maida actually, I think, prefers playing slightly deeper in like a 10-ish kind of role. So there's every world where potentially Howe sees it the same way and he starts Walter Maida and Wissa together in like some sort of classic 4-4-2 scenario. I'm not sure, but we'll have to wait and see what Howe does with that squad that he's now got. But it's exciting for Newcastle fans. It's a little bit hard to predict for FPL, but if I was to hazard a guess, I'd say that Wissa's going to start against Wolves. So if you're on a free hit, that's where I'll be targeting my player. I'd be going for Wissa. If you ask me, hand on heart, which one I'd go for for Wissa myself. Then we got Isaac. Now, I wouldn't be going anywhere near Isaac. He went away with Sweden for international duty. He did not play in the first game, which finished 2-2. And he came on for, I think, about 12 minutes plus injury time in the 2-0 loss against whoever it was 2 nights ago. That tells me he is not match fit. And we know Isaac's injury record with Newcastle, it's always on and off, like with the groin or the quad or something. I don't think there's any world where he gets rushed back. Now, there is every chance that he comes on for 15, 20 minutes against Burnley. There's every chance in that 15 to 20 minutes that he scores a goal. But should you be moving for him straight off the bat when we don't know what's going to go on, what his minutes are going to look like, how the team's going to function with him in it? There are so many unknowns in regards to Isaac, and coughing up 10.4 million for yes, he's a Liverpool attacker and probably will become the starting number 9 over the coming weeks. But jumping this early with no fitness base, with no minutes, with literally no football to start the season, I just think is a massive, massive red flag and a massive risk. So for me, I don't think I'd be going anywhere near Isaac. I understand the reasoning behind going, particularly with Koloani or Wissa. I think they will be good. They should be good to hit the ground running almost straight away. Isaac, though, I think is definitely an ease in to the season type of a play for me. So those are the new signings in a very short video put together about what I think about which ones are the best ones to bring in that have been added to the game post-game week 3, which ones might be fantasy relevant, which ones are definitely wait and see. Let me know if you are looking at buying one of the new signings yourself and which one you think will have the best impact in FPL this season in the comments. I am really intrigued to know. I'll be back tomorrow with a double upload. I have transfer tips and my game week 4 team selection. And tonight, I'm on the FPL Pubcast with FPL Nightmare, FPL Have a Beer, who's now FPL Pubcast, and Nick Trig Talks FPL Nick. So join us for that. They'll be live at 6 p.m. UK time. Hope to see you there. Thanks for watching. That's been FPL D-Unit.